man received a mysterious and strange task, which was to hang mines on the steep cliffs every day, in order to prevent unknown terrifying creatures hidden in the canyon from climbing up. And the place where he lived was in a fortress dozens of meters above the ground. On the opposite side of the Grand Canyon, there was another identical fortress, and any contact between them was strictly prohibited. And this task was even more secret. Mike not only had to cut off all contact with the outside world, but also had to stick to it alone for 1 year. After the assistant explained the precautions of the task in detail, he left in a hurry. But no one expected that all this was actually a trap, and there was a huge conspiracy behind it. What was even more shocking was that as soon as the assistant left, he was thrown off the helicopter by the superior, and no one could take the secrets here alive. Mike's daily work seemed simple, but he could not slack off at all. He needed to check whether the radar on the canyon was operating normally, check whether the protective net on the edge of the canyon was damaged, and confirm whether the ammunition of the heavy machine gun was sufficient. Then he reports to the headquarters via radio once a month, and the rest of the time he can only spend alone in this silent fortress. This day, bored Mike picked up a telescope and looked at the fortress opposite with curiosity. The scene in front of him stunned him. The person stationed opposite was actually a woman. The woman's name was Irene. She soon realized that Mike was peeking at her, but she didn't know that the fate of the two began to change quietly. At night, curious Mike couldn't help peeking at Irene through a telescope. Irene blew out the candle without hesitation after finding out. Mike was full of doubts. How could a woman come here to guard the tower? He didn't know that Irene was actually a top killer. Not long ago, she had just sniped a big shot. In order to avoid this overwhelming pursuit, Irene had to come to this isolated place to seek a little peace for the time being. The next night, Irene couldn't hold back her loneliness and used a telescope to observe what Mike was doing. She wrote a few words on a cardboard and then fired a shot into the sky. The gunshot was particularly harsh in the silent canyon, and it was the first to break the silence between the two. She asked Mike's name, and Mike followed the assistant's warning and said that they were forbidden to communicate. But Irene would not give up easily. She raised her sniper rifle and blew up Mike's teacup with a bang. She also made a series of provocative movements, and her eyes were full of teasing. Mike felt that his dignity was greatly challenged. With the idea of reciprocity, he quickly raised his gun in aim, and with a whoosh, he broke Irene's bottle with a shot. However, unexpectedly, Irene was not angry, but raised her hands and clapped excitedly, and even raised the bottle above her head, signaling Mike to shoot again, as if testing his marksmanship and courage. Suddenly Irene's face changed suddenly. She seemed to have seen something terrible.